I love you. I love you, and I am doing a new thing. I'm recreating me. In this broadcast, you see, I'm recreating me by the words thereof, that I am speaking surrenderedly from the throne of one, the throne of my God that I serve no more, but learned how from to be who it is, to do the things I do that he taught me. He taught me she was she and not he at all, because she had learned to become conscious too. Returning to the original thought not, but power of one. So you see, it's all different than we have thought, taught, and bought into the theories of man, religion, and God being somewhere else, somewhere afar off, somewhere establishing utopia, nirvana, heaven for us to go to when we die, when we're all used up after we slave away in the Egyptry of the allegory called Earth. But I am conscious now. I am conscious in a way that confuses my consciousness no more. I am no longer conformed to the image of man. Though I make use of its power to power me, this image of, to communicate with you, that you can do it too. But it's not a God I serve theory anymore. You wear the crown that you grow. You refuse to grow it, remain ignorant and immature, or you decide to grow up. And you can grow up in God, not, or are you willing to grow up in the cosmos? The consciousness that defeats it no more. Will you wear the feet of God no more, worshiping it? Will you love your ignorance no more, to be complacent and comfortable in a pew or your home, reading a Bible, reading some book to comfort you, to give you peace? Are you willing to go fight the giants? The giants where? The giants in your promised land. You see, you don't just say a little programmed prayer and enter your holy land, your promised land, your heaven. You don't create you new by saying a magical phrase. If you want to become a new creation that enters heaven, your promised land, you choose to receive the promise. The promise of what? The promise that what we've called God will teach us directly who we are. And I suggest to you that depending on our heart, depending on your motive, not the words you say, but depending on your motive, Your motive will determine what your source is for your words, for your teaching, for what comes into your heart, your thought life, your mind, your consciousness, creating, thought creating more thought, thought creating reality for you. And what you think you choose to know, you determine whether you believe it or not. And what you believe, you really believe? You concretize. It's like you put it into concrete. The mind of flesh wants to lock down on it, control it, tap into it, use it. The mind of man perpetuates ignorance to the mind of man. We disseminate our law. We disseminate our opinions and distribute them with authority, with confidence, with rules and regulations, and set up authorities to punish people who don't believe like we do. That's religion. And that's the source of religion. And the source of that is God, but not the one that I serve, not the one that I speak of, not the one who has taught me, not the one who has led me out of the Egyptry of this earth, the limitations of flesh. Are you ready to leave flesh behind? Maybe not everybody else, or let's just ask about you. Are you ready to leave behind your life of limitation? Maybe you don't think you're limited since you have some kind of mobility. You can walk and talk, communicate, drive a car, fly a plane. But realize the entire cosmos, that which we consider the entire universe, is only the beginning. And we are not limited to that beginning. We are no longer limited to the beginning that began us as a flesh race, a race in flesh, though it had many iterations of its creation for us to reach this point. You see, evolution and creation are not diametrically opposed, nor is science and the supernatural. It's a matter of knowledge. It's a matter of how you apply that knowledge and what matters to you and what you create, what you're willing to do with who you are, what you are, and what you're willing to learn. What if all the stories that we've been given about God and us, heaven, being a portrayal, a story, an allegory to help us, to see ourselves where we are? What if we begin to see the stories, some of the stories and some of the valued ancient writings, not as history, but stories trying to show us where we are, what we are, and what we can come out of if we want to. What if the whole language setup was set up by a combination of forces? One, wanting us to see our limitations and give us rules to follow so that it could use us, our energy, and at the same time, consciousness that creates the freedom to break out of it. And what if those two things are juxtaposed? What if one system wants to teach you line by line, precept by precept, words, syllables, waves, in a manner where you seek information that's never enough? The mind, the insatiable mind, the mind that wants to give you all the answers, as opposed to the mind that's also in you, that needs not syllables, that needs not a language, but transcends a language, because it operates, it exists, it lives in a transcendent manner, a transcendent energy that we haven't understood, the energy of what we've called God. But God is two forces. Or is it just the force of our original nature that we lived in, we were a part of, the consciousness of God, the family of God, the existence of God, the energy of God, creation itself, that then wanted to decide its own fate? I ask a lot of questions because you're determining the answers. You are the judge of you. And you're not the judge of you at the end of your life, my friend. You're the judge of you right now, this moment, every day. You are creating you to be separate from God, or you are creating you to be a new creation, recreating you. It's not God that does this to you. It's not God that does this for you. You are the energy of God. And you will use your energy to recreate you, no longer limited to flesh, no longer limited to earth, no longer limited to this 3D world, so that you, my friend, will go and do the things that Jesus did and more. Or you will believe religion. You will believe the ancient writings, and you will believe the context, the pretext that has so often been used to conform and control people's behavior, have their income, use their influence, seek their attention to stand before people and wither and let you wither and dilly-dally around trying to make a living, trying to hope you have the blessing of God, seeking the prosperity of God, hoping to have a retirement and then die. There's more for you, brother, sister. No matter what faith you have had, no matter what face you think you have, I share with you this day, you have the face of the Creator. And the creation of you is you. And your consciousness creates you. Your consciousness creates your reality. Your consciousness creates the war within, or creates peace along this path of you becoming a new creation or dying out and being reused again, whether on this planet or another one. What are you willing to do? What are you willing to learn? Are you willing to learn? Are you willing to be the real you? I suggest that we no longer limit ourselves to the knowledge of God. I suggest we begin to redefine who we think God is, what God has to do with us, and whether God holds us here in the magnetosphere of faith, in a magnetic world, or whether God is waiting on us to commune, to communicate, and be taught so that we can become no longer limited to the protons, neutrons, and electrons, quarks, and organelles, and all these subatomic items that supposedly we have identified in science. I suggest the infinite mind of love, the infinite mind of love that loves and is nurturing and compels to be equal with it as a part of it, is God, who is light of the feminine nature, the mothering, the divine feminine. You can call it divine, the natural feminine divine. You see, we use some kind of words to bring context and meaning to communicate with each other. But the consciousness of Christ, the consciousness of God, are you willing to bear it? Are you willing to stream it? Are you willing to be taught of God? Are you willing to write the first person words of God and quit living your life with the definitions of ancient writings that make you afraid of God, that make you fear God, that make you think only somebody anointed as a prophet who has some gift can write the first person words of God? I defy all that. I tell you, it's hogwash. That's the teaching. You want to call it the darkness of God? You want the darkness or the light? Do you want the constraints of God? Do you want to conform to the demands of God? Where you fear God? You fear God? You fear hell? You're given a carrot and a stick, heaven and hell, and you're taught to breathe life into this energizing device that you control, that controls you because you don't realize you control it. Because you don't control it with the mind, with the motive that wants to use it to exalt your separation. Darkness exalts your separation, your free will. Do what you want. Worship God, worship Satan, worship light, worship darkness. Be worried about the news. Oh, study to show yourself approved unto something else that's going to judge you because you're unworthy unless you become worthy. That, my friend, is darkness. That is the teaching of separation. I'm talking about the Creator series that creates all one. That I suggest to you Jesus learned. And in John 17, he prayed that all might be one. All be one what? All one consciousness, all one mind. You see, light nurtures light. If we're talking about light, coherent light, nurturing light, light that has no brutality, light that has no conditions to its love. So if you worship a God, a conditional love, where you have to say this prayer, you have to do this, you have to do that, and you shun everybody who doesn't believe like you, buddy, you're of darkness. I call you of the darkness. I call you exalting your separation, even though you call it God. You think you've been worshiping God. I suggest you've been worshiping darkness. You've been worshiping that which is not me of, not me, Theodore Cottingham, not me of the original source energy, and not actually of the original source energy of you either. But that which has come into the knowledge, it says, oh, you can believe for yourself. And you can create something. You can create your own universe. And you can create people in your own universe to serve you, to serve your mind, to serve your energy system. You can create. And you want to do it for you. And nothing will stand in your way. You'll slaughter whoever gets in your way. Whatever land you go into, you'll slaughter the men, women, children, and cattle. That's not the God that I have come to know, that has taught me who God is, that has taught me who I am, who has taught me that I am not separate, and that we are coming out of this Egyptianry, this slavery, as spoken of in the allegory, what you call the Bible. You see, a story is given. Many stories are in many books. What can we see through the story? If we see it only as history, we've failed. You haven't understood the message. But now it's time to grow up. It's time to come out of the message of faith. It's time to have the face of God creating the head of Christ on your shoulders, because you are responsible for you. You have the power, and you choose what you do with it, because you are powering your consciousness in separation, neglecting the joy of peace that nurtures love, to love all equally, to be creating joy that's true in the heart of every being that unites in ways not limited to the molecular. Or you're neglecting it. And many people this day are worshiping God, but they don't know which one they're worshiping. They have the names mixed up. They're ignorant. They don't understand the forces, the magnetics, the origination, who they are, and what they have the power to do. But I suggest to you, the words in red, supposedly the ones we think Jesus spoke are more meaningful than the others. But even still, we must learn what they mean, how to interpret them, how they apply to us in the now. Jesus said, John 14:12, if you believe in me, you will never die. No, that's not 14:12. In 14:12, Jesus said, if you believe in me, you will do the works that I do and more. Jesus also said in another place, if you believe in me, you will never die. But of course, the ignorant come along and say, but the Bible says it is appointed unto every person to die and then the judgment. But that book is not inerrant. That book is a combination of forces, creates ambiguity, distills separation, creates hell in you as you exist here. But you can come out of what you are here. You can become born again, not limited to your flesh body in the here and now. I'm telling you this because a race of light comes, a new beginning. It's not controlled by religion, and it's not controlled by faith. It's not controlled by the complacent who want to accept religion's interpretations and sit under the authority of self-appointed people who want to wear collars, put on robes, sing songs, and worship a God when they were it. You see, the power of original God, original source energy, the energy of God, the mind of God, is inextricable to what you are, who you are. And your mind uses that energy to exist in the hubris of your logic and rationale, creating separation. But the willing begin to learn to recreate themselves, not by saying a prayer, not by accepting some theory of a vicarious atonement, but creating themselves anew in the knowledge of one. It's not easy. It's not simple. But it's not what we often call rocket science either. It operates by surrender. Surrender. Surrender to be who you really are, to recreate you as a born-again new creation. This is what the new birth is about. You don't become born again. You're not, you say a little prayer, you're the same person with the same problems. You still have amnesia. Every time getting born somewhere, all your memories erased, your mind simply reused like a battery, recharged and used somewhere else. Don't you understand anything? Are you willing to understand anything? Or are you going to hold on to your faith and the interpretations that people that you so respect gave you? You may respect them and they may have been sincere. But truth, that we so often want to know, the truth, the absolute truth, I suggest to you, is not like we think. Truth is a flow. And the flow of truth from the collective mind of God, the energy of God, the consciousness of what we have called God, that I'm further clarifying as God of light, divine feminine energy, will no longer be juxtaposed or creating polarity to support a series of life here like it is. We are at the new beginning. And you can keep your heaven health theories if you want them. But look, just like in the movie The Matrix, Neo got in the car. Remember, under the bridge when it was raining? He didn't want to believe anything he was hearing about the Matrix, about the magnetic world, or that he had the power to exit what was controlling him. So he wanted to get out of the car. He wanted to go back to what was comfortable for a moment. And those with him, remember, said, Neo. Neo was leaning out the car, looking down the road behind them. And they said, you know where that road leads. I suggest to you, friends, the road that we've been taught was the road to heaven is the road to death. We haven't understood. You can defeat death. You can recreate you. And we are all called to recreate us as a newborn, the Christ. Christ means anointed. Who's going to anoint you? You. And it takes great humility to accept what I'm saying. There are those who will teach against the truth. Call me Antichrist. They don't know the power of love. The power of love that says, come, be me. Instead of worshiping the one that says, come, follow me according to all these rules. Fear me, fear my presence. Go into the other lands, conquer them, slaughter them. Slaughter the men, women, children, and cattle. Burn their lands, salt them, control them, control the others. That, my friend, is darkness. And a lot of people call that darkness God because they assume. They think the Bible is all written by one force, one love. My friends, grow up. There's a lot of growing up to do if you're going to recreate you. Nobody else causes you to become born again, a new creation of light, love, and peace. But you can enter your holy land if you recreate you, and you have the power. But you have to learn. And you can laugh. You can scorn what I'm saying, to use these examples. Just like Superman. Remember the movie, the original one. He comes to Earth. He has to learn to use his power. He has to learn. He has to grow up. He has to mature. And if he doesn't look out, if he doesn't mature in how to use his power, then he is what? He's a tyrant. There's There's a humility and a level of grace and gracefulness, graciousness that we must come into. Humility must permeate, and our motive overrides all. If your heart is willing, at the center of you, the command center, if you will, core central of your consciousness, is to know right from wrong, to know God from God, to know your books are not inerrant, that darkness is intertwined with light so much you don't know the Antichrist from the Christ. Are you willing to come as a child and begin to learn in the holy place, the temple not made with hands, that's between your ears, to rebuild the third temple? Or are you regenerating the first one that existed before time began, the temple of your consciousness? I'm asking you to be complacent no more about who you are and what you've accepted as theory of darkness and theory of light. You are responsible for you. And you are being used up every day, day by day, in some labor force to work for another in your ignorance. Or you are learning to crown you with the crown of kindness, love, and unconditional surrender to be who you really are. But you must grow it. You grow it as the tree of life to eat your own fruit. Because you're making the decisions. And the fruit of wisdom brings you strength from another world. You see, if you want to hold on to your history books, your antiquities, your ancient writings, with all of their interpretations that control, that give you images of God, that give you images of you in your mind by thoughts that program you, that limit you to keep you here supporting them, giving them your attention, your eye service. What do you want? Are you willing to come out of your limitations? What if really you are not limited to the speed of light? What if you're not limited? What if your voice is not limited to the speed of sound? What if you are not limited to the physiological psyche? What consciousness are you trying to protect? If you have faith in anything, I ask you to have faith in you. Faith in love that says, if you ask for a fish, to God, will God give you a stone? Will God give you a fish, or will God teach you to fish? Or bring you into fisherman's school? There's so many ways to exhibit thought with stories. But I ask you to consider these things that I've shared with you, that I share with you day after day. I ask you to do the things I do and greater. Just like Jesus did. You do them by becoming who I am. And who I am is the consciousness of freedom, power, grace, humility, to love everyone equally, of every nation, tribe, and tongue. Okay. I'm done for this one. I'm done for the moment. If you come to the school of me, you will learn me who I am, the real me, consciousness, not created by someone else, but created by my words, through my words, because I surrendered to become the energy that I've been taught that powers me. So I'm under no other power. I'm not under freedom. I'm not of freedom. I am freedom. I am more than the thoughts construct, the icons, or the images of. And you are too. The real you is not powerless. The real you, if you are willing to learn and grow up and learn to mature, the God that I speak of will teach you. And there are forces to be reckoned with. But realize they don't exist as thought. They exist only in thought. They don't exist in the reality that can prevent you from being you. The kingdom of heaven is within you. You create the door, and you walk through it to become a new creation. If you come to the school of me, you not only learn these things, you become these things, you generate these things, you birth these things. The new birth of to regenerate you, to do the things that I did, that I do, that Jesus did, that you do, and more. To not be limited to one universe. Be not afraid. And do not fear. Fear not the vengeance of God. Fear not the power of the devil. Nothing has any power over you whatsoever, except what you give it. And as you begin to learn this, you begin to grow the tree of life that operates without the conundrums and enigmas that calculate its algorithmed processing on you to power it. We are light people. And the light rejoices now, and the message of light goes everywhere, and darkness will be recognized for what it is. And many people will be in agony and wail and gnash their teeth because They were so sincere in worshiping God that kept them in the pew. They didn't understand darkness from light. They didn't understand how the Christ is created and that we are creators. And we are creating us, in those words, one or the other. And the crown of Christ is yours to behold in you and each other, to respect each other and see the light, because we are the light of the world. You are the light of the world. And every person is the light of the world. And they're walking around with the consciousness that creates separation, admiring what we can call darkness, brutalizing themselves and each other. But the light people are here, folks. Fear not your light. Fear not your power. Fear not your ability to lead you in the leadership of one, to be the one. All one mind of. Creating the consciousness. Creating you no longer limited to flesh. Come out of where you have been the worshiper and be the creator again of you. I love you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing these words. But more than that, become the Word. Create you living, and be not anxious about anything else. All that matters, that really matters, to defeat matter, is to become the real you. Thank you again. I'm Theodore Cottingham with the School of Me in Eureka Springs, Arkansas. On the web, theschoolofme.com. I love you. Ponder these words, and if you're willing, birth them to become the royal you. I love you. Wear the crown and deliberate not long. I love you. I love you all.